Ngā mihi nui kia koutou. Today we're going to be looking at the pedagogically focused practitioner. As the ministry strategy states, at the heart of a healthy society lies the educational success of all young people. This is what the document that I'm going to overview today, looking at school leadership by Robinson, Hohepa and Lloyd. Here's the site. All of the best evidence synthesis documents can be found on the Education Council website at the Ministry of Education site. These are the focus questions today. To what extent does the BESS consider issues of leadership in early childhood education? And how relevant is the BESS for the early childhood context? There are 8 dimensions to the BESS, and I'm going to gloss over most of them because you can go in and read the document itself, but I'll focus on 1 or 2. But here they are: establishing goals, resourcing, very important, planning, of course, promoting professional development, ensuring an orderly and supportive environment, creating powerful connections, engaging in constructive problem talk, and selecting and developing smart tools. And while we're at it, this is going to be the focus question at the end for the forum discussion. How do teachers in early childhood then meet the dimensions of being a pedagogically focused practitioner? So the BESS differentiates between the 2 types of leadership. Traditionally, what's happened in the education sector is borrowed from the business sector. So transformational leadership has traditionally emphasised vision and inspiration, and is a model that's been borrowed, as I said, from that sector, the business sector. So it's hierarchical, it's adult-centric, it's about adults talking to one another, not really related to the learning outcomes for young children, as opposed to the pedagogical leadership model, which is differentiated in the BESS, in that this model of leadership is about improved educational outcomes for children and young people. So the transformational leadership model has been about adults talking to adults and professionally developing themselves, with actually little impact on the outcomes for children, whereas pedagogical leadership's focused. Let's go back there. It's a distributed type of leadership. And an example given in the BESS is the establishment of the Kohanga Reo, which then out of the Kohanga Reo came the Kurikopa Māori, Wharekura, and now Whare Wānanga, a whole stream of Māori medium education. But typically, Kohanga Reo have all been established in communities by parents and the elders. And so the challenge then has been to maintain the impetus provided by parents and elders in the establishment phase to sustain the relationship so that they become enduring, valued relationships between the settings and communities. Because what tends to happen once the kohanga receives state funding, it's co-opted by the state, and then you get teachers in control, and often those relationships break down. And so that is, whilst kohanga and kura have started up with hiss and a roar, they have tended to back off, and it's to do with the regulatory framework. They've tended to go into decline, and it's largely because the very people that established those educational settings often become disempowered. So I'm going to go over the 8 dimensions that I put up before. The first one being establishing goals, very important, effective goal setting. It requires that the leaders establish the importance of the goals. They've got to be relevant, they've got to be clear, and they've got to be build the staff commitment towards those goals. Not much point in setting them if the staff aren't really committed to them. The next, resourcing strategically. When identifying and obtaining the resources, leaders in high-performing educational settings use clear criteria that are aligned to the pedagogical and philosophical purposes of the educational setting, and that they ensure sustained funding for what it is that they prioritise. Number 3, planning, coordinating and evaluating teaching and the curriculum. Leaders in high-performing educational settings, they promote discussions, they provide active oversight of the program, they observe the classrooms, the practices, and they ensure systematic monitoring of student progress. Very important. Number 4, promoting and participating in teacher learning and development or professional development. So leaders in the high performing settings ensure that there's an intensive focus on the teaching-learning relationship, that they promote collective responsibility and accountability for student achievement and well-being. They tend not to fob off why some of their students may be failing. They tend to have a zero tolerance for failure and don't put up barriers, and they provide useful advice about how to solve teaching problems. The next, just go back there, that was number 4. Yes, the BEST cites the Education Review Office research into the determinants of school effectiveness in managing teaching and learning. So that is the extent to which school leaders know that their investment in professional learning and development is necessary to change teacher practice and improve student outcomes. In other words, the professional development dimension of the 8, this is singly the most important. They found that effective educational leaders are those that are able to manage the complexities of balance, of making the necessary connections between school governance, management, and community, and maintaining a strong focus on providing the optimal conditions and support for their learners through being very clear about the fundamental goals. So effective leaders have, as I said, that zero tolerance for failure and don't allow low expectations or organisational barriers get in the way. So they focus on the learning and the achievement of their learners. So, as I said, that's the most important of the dimensions. Although the here we go. Although the 8 BEST dimensions are all important, as I said, this one is the most important. I want to note here the research by Mitchell and Kuby carried out in 2003, the findings of the impact of professional development that they found were put into these 3 categories: enhancing pedagogy, contributing to children's learning, and building linkages between the early childhood education settings and other settings. Among other things, professional development in the early childhood sector can make significant contributions to enhancing pedagogy through challenging teacher beliefs and assumptions or deficit views that one may have when valuing or not valuing the young children's backgrounds, so that, and I quote here, the knowledge and skills of families and children are acknowledged and built on for improved outcomes, unquote. So that's the very fundamentals of the curriculum, Te Whāriki, that the knowledge that young children come to the setting with is valued and built on. So in a recent press release by the Professors May, Carr and Smith, they talked about the recent government cutbacks, the axing of PD, the cancelling of the Centres of Innovation scheme, the reducing to 80% the extended time frame, the 100% goal of qualified and registered teachers going, reducing to 50% the requirements for qualified teachers in the under 2 area, and rescinding previous agreed improvements, reducing the training incentive grants. So professional development is critically important for all of you, and it's important that you continue to lobby and to mitigate the negative effects that are going to happen with those recent cutbacks by the government. Worked so hard to get them in, and then all of a sudden, stroke of a pen, they're all gone. But back to the best, the fifth dimension, ensuring an orderly and supportive environment, of course. When ensuring an orderly and supportive environment, leaders in high-performing schools or centres protect the teaching time. They ensure, and that's biggie in the early childhood sector, you can get caught up in all sorts of things, but that teaching that time, that valuable time with the learners is to be protected. Ensure consistent discipline routines and identify and resolve conflicts quickly and effectively. The sixth dimension, creating educationally powerful connections. So leaders establish continuity between students and school, student identities and school practices, develop continuities and coherence across the programs that are offered, and ensuring effective transitions from one educational setting to another. Engaging in constructive problem talk. Leaders who engage in constructive problem talk discover the reasons why teachers do the things that they seek to change, and lead discussions of the relative merits of current and alternative practices. And finally, selecting and developing and using smart tools. So leaders ensure that they are based on valid theories and ensure that they're well designed, and they ensure that they're up to the minute. So to conclude, and I know it's a brief overview of this document, but a very important document, there's a disconnection often between the stated policy goals and the practices. Inequalities in provision will continue to disadvantage many children. The best evidence synthesis provides the ideological clarification around strengthening pedagogical leadership through a well-coordinated approach to meeting the dimensions as stated above. So this is a fresh view of leadership, pedagogical leadership. It implies the existence of shared and collaborative distributive leadership, which is inclusive of the leadership found in communities. So it's all inclusive. It's leadership based on the on the knowledge that's actually housed in communities, so that schools don't become disconnected factory-like, or centres don't become disconnected from the communities that they serve. So leadership based on dominant discourses and adult-centred hierarchies are no longer relevant, and nor are they appropriate in education, and are the antithesis of what Te Whāriki is all about. So again, I'm going to reiterate those questions. How do teachers in the early childhood sector meet the dimensions of being a pedagogically focused practitioner? And what is the leadership dimension that is most important? Discuss this and why is it most important, and how do you intend to develop a plan so that you are able to access that most important dimension, which is, well, you can discuss that on the forum. Nō reira, tēnei te mihi atu ki a koutou, noho ora mai. Tēnā rā.